Welcome to the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast, where every week we're interviewing guests in the small business industry that support small businesses. And today we're going to get answered into a question of the holistic business coach. What does holistic business coaching actually mean? I've struggled with this in my own work, and I'm very excited to have a best selling author and holistic business coach, along with a mindset coach on today. I'd love to welcome Raeanne Lacatena, who is a holistic business coach for the integrated entrepreneur. That's her business, and she's created it. And it's going to be a great conversation. Raeanne, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for having me.
Can you give us an insight into what holistic business coaching is and your business and what it is all about for its clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I am happy to share. So, when we think about business, often a lot of people will really focus on what I call the masculine energy in business. And so they'll focus on the strategy, the revenue, the KPIs, the drivers, those linear ways to get the business done. And those are so incredibly important. We do have to attend to those parts of the business. However, when we leave out the feminine side of business, which is collaboration, community, fun, joy, spontaneity, compassion, empathy, then we lose half of the possibility that can come from building a business at the minimum. But also we end up often creating broke millionaires. So people who have a lot of money but no one to spend it with because they've destroyed every relationship along the way, or people just who are unhappy, unhealthy, or who are really struggling in a lot of different categories in life. And so, as a holistic business coach, I like to see business owners as one human being having lots of experiences. Instead of trying to compartmentalize all of who they are into these little boxes, we really integrate all of them into one experience and begin using the skills and strengths that we have in all the categories of our life to grow our business and to have the happiest, healthiest, wealthiest expression of our business.
Now, that brings up a great question, which is I've seen a few different people talking about the feminine side of business.
Mhm.
But from a man, and this is, I think, a great part of the conversation is how does that work? How do you work through those conversations with male entrepreneurs that are, whether or not they're focused on the side, on those parts and pieces of the business or not, it's, I think, a commonality or a worry, I know, at least in my mind, of even reaching out to work with you from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, the first piece, it's a very common question because this is a newer way to speak about business for sure. The first piece is to be assured that it is not a man woman thing. I have been working in the personal development field now for 20 years and in business coaching for 15. And I actually work with more men than I do women. And so when we really think about this piece, the feminine and the masculine, it is genderless. It is an energy instead of men behave this way and women behave this way. Actually, most of the women that I work with, because they're business owners, they're entrepreneurs, successful business owners and entrepreneurs, they actually have more masculine energy traits than they do feminine energy traits. And the men that work with me actually are craving the feminine energy traits because they have so many masculine energy trait models as opposed to, compassion, fun, joy, kindness, these types of things that are the soft side of leadership in business. And so really it's a harmony of the two world. There are different ways to speak about it. I just mentioned one, the hard side of leadership, the soft side of leadership. There's the internal world, the external world. There's, strategy versus leadership skills. There's lots of different ways to speak about it. But ultimately, if you can accept that it is not a gender related element and more about who you're being and what energy you're bringing to your business, what areas of focus you're attending to, then usually people don't have any problem at all. I have some of the burliest men and in some of the highest ranking positions and some of the most masculine industries out there who are openly, overtly using feminine energy and masculine energy in their languaging now.
Wow, that is amazing. What was the inspiration that you had when you decided to go down this path of personal development? What made you start your business?
So I have been, as I mentioned briefly, I'm a mental health therapist first, actually. So I started my career 20 years ago, and I was actually in pediatric palliative care was my first role, where I was taking care of children who had life-threatening illnesses and their families as they walked through disease and sometimes death. And so I very early in my career got an incredible inspiration from some pretty special people to learn some of those really hard questions in life, the why God type questions, the what's it all mean type questions. I learned those through those beautiful children very early in my career. I also learned a lot about what my skills and strengths were and where I could best use my resources and my abilities. And I learned that I have more of a directive approach, more of a collaborative approach to engaging in mental health. So I got to learn who my people were very early. And that started as a counseling program for the working well, is what they call it in the biz. And then I really got to know some entrepreneurs and the way that they think. And I realized over, I'm shortening the story, it's obviously a 2 decade long story. I realized over many years that I am actually a natural salesperson. I'm a natural entrepreneur. I'm a natural creative thinker. It took me years and years to accept that about myself because I went into the helping field and I thought I was going to be a counselor. And so it was an identity shift from working in nonprofit to working in the business space. But once I really began to meet with these types of folks, I really identified with them and learned more of who I am. And so there's lots of inspirations along the way. Was working as an employee of another business coaching program in the financial services industry for many, many years. And I only recently just opened my business coaching business of my own about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, it was. So I've kind of been on a long, twisty road, which I know a lot of entrepreneurs go through a journey to get on the other side of entrepreneurship. But I'm proud to say that the integrated entrepreneur is doing well and thriving and serving a lot of people, making a lot of impact.
If you've ever opened your laptop ready to grow your business and 2 hours later closed it, realizing you've gotten nothing done, but you've researched office chairs, you've ordered lunch, and you've planned out the next 3 dinners, all the things that you wouldn't typically do to work on your business. Yeah, I've done that too. I'm Jason Pond. I'm the host of the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast, and I want you to achieve your breakthrough. But we do that through the community I built. I built the Momentum Community. The Momentum Community is a place where we meet every week. We talk about your goals, where you want to get with your business, and then we track them. And we use the Momentum dashboard to do that. We make sure you're moving forward every week, and it's accountability like you've never seen in a community forum. I want you to be part of that community. If you want to learn more about it, check out the link in the description below and enjoy the rest of the episode. Yeah, talk to me a little bit about when you wrote your book and the stories that go into it and the things that came about. What was a little bit of the inspiration that kind of said, I think I want to write this down and share this with the world?
It started with other people telling me that I had a lot of great stories to share and a lot of great principles and foundations and frameworks to share and asking for a book from me for many years, actually. It was over and over again. I was hearing this messaging from my own coaches, from my own mentors, and from my own clients. Raeanne, you have a book in you, at least one book in you. We want to hear that. We want that captured in one particular way. And so finally I was like, all right, I'll write a book. And I started that about 2.5 years ago. It was, International Women's Day right after I had gave birth to my 3rd child. She was a baby girl, and I was like, "All right, I guess I'm doing this for her." And so I started writing 2.5 years ago, and the book just launched September 30th of 2024. So it took me a while to write the book. And eventually, once I created the rituals of writing and really got into the writing, I realized that it was a calling that I had to serve more people and that a book was a great way to get the work that I do in the hands of as many people as possible. And I am, yeah, now happy to say that it's a bestseller.
Yeah, that is very awesome. And it looks like it's been endorsed by Tony Robbins and some others. And we'll have a link to all of that information in the show notes for people to be able to pick up a copy of that. As you've been growing your coaching business and you've been being able to help as many people as you desire, and the work continues to be successful, what has been something that has maybe a recent um, collaboration or a recent event that has really given you that extra energy outside of just you've mentioned the book, but maybe outside of that with your clients?
I actually, just this past week, I launched a 3-day training that is going to be the beginning part of a launched program in collaboration with a former coaching client who is now a co-host of the Integrated Entrepreneur Academy. And this thing that we started talking about in the beginning of our call today, Jason, the feminine and masculine, he is actually a Marine, a former financial advisor. And so he is very, traditionally masculine energied, and he respects the need for the feminine energy and actually has a lot of that feminine energy present. And so we're teaching and modeling what the feminine and masculine harmony looks like between those two worlds in a very unique way because me, social worker coach, him now coach, Marine financial advisor. He's a man, I'm a woman. We're able to showcase what the harmony between those two worlds looks like in real time. We're both successful business owners. And so we're showing the principles and teaching those and modeling them in real time for our clients and the business owners to learn from us. So I'm really excited about it. It's been a lot of fun this past week, seeing it come to life and beginning to get excited about the program launching in January.
And so if you're a small business owner listening to that, definitely check out the link for that program because that is going to be a huge opportunity for you to get to understand the differences that Rand's talking about in this podcast on that masculine and feminine energy and to see it in action, it sounds like, and get to be in the room with a few other entrepreneurs, which is always a big success for small business owners. It makes you nervous because you never know what you're at, but trust me, if you're a small business owner, there's others out there struggling with problems that you have, and you should be able to get in and jump into it. Raeanne, what's the future of business coaching? Like this is a thing that we have seen so many business coaches come up through the ranks over the years, and it's become a very popular industry to get into. But from the perspective of you've been in it for a while and you're continuing to go and grow, where's business coaching going in the next 5 to 10 years to really support that small business and business community?
It's a great question. Yes, I'm not the original gangster of coaching by any stretch of the imagination. There are some greats out there that have been doing this much longer than me, but I did join the trend before it got cool. And it has gotten very, very cool to be a coach. And, as a mental health therapist first and a coach, a trained coach, I can witness in this third party, unbiased, but also very biased way of the coaching industry. And I can see some of the ways that it's not going well and some of the ways that it is going well. And I'm studying it and watching it and witnessing it. The most encouraging thing I think that is going to come from this boom is that right now the coaching industry is very highly under regulated. Pretty much anyone can hear, "You give good advice. You should be a coach," and slap a a panel on their door and become a coach without too much difficulty, like a $24 certificate. And because the coaching industry has become so popular, more and more attention is being brought to the industry. And therefore, I think more and more regulation about who can and cannot be in the industry, who can and cannot serve in certain capacities. And some of the training that I'm seeing, which is I'm very grateful for, when people are becoming certified as a coach, they're beginning to learn the differences between mental health counseling and coaching. Very protective of the mental health industry, and there are some coaches that are doing some pretty irresponsible things, I think, around taking care of people without the necessary training. We're talking about people's lives. We're talking about their money. We're talking about their relationships, their bodies. We're talking about their brain, their neurochemistry. And so, even though there are incredibly transformative coaches out there are certain things that we really do need to be trained in order to successfully and responsibly support people. And I'm seeing the industry move in that direction, which brings me hope and joy. I know that you're in the financial services industry, right, Jason? Is that right?
No, I am actually a small business coach myself,
Oh, you
but
are.
that's from 30 years of entrepreneurship before deciding to move into and having used executive coaching services for many of those 30 years. So,
Okay.
um,
So you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about when you say that this is an underregulated industry. That's one of the major things that I'm seeing is that movement towards the regulation. I also what you might know this well too then is that I'm seeing this thing where it's a different skill to become a coach than it is to become a business owner. Just like I work with small business owners, for example, an artist. Small business owners will often want to focus on what they love to do, and the business side of things is a completely different animal. And that can sometimes develop fear, doubt, worry, resentment, all kinds of emotions around the business itself, especially with creative entrepreneurs. And so helping people to integrate what they do on a business side and what they're doing in their art, their service, their product. That's another thing that we have to and we're working on getting better and better at in this industry because you can't just slap a panel on your door and become a coach. There's a business that needs to be built in order to generate the clients and the revenue over time. And so it does. It takes a different skill set that is now beginning to be attended to a little bit better in those certifications and those trainings.
Yeah, there's definitely been some different opportunities where we've seen those, and I noticed it early on in one of the certifications I took that coaches jumping from corporate and saying, "I'm going to become a coach." They've already jumped ship, and there's you can hear it in their voice. They're scrambling to find revenue,
Yeah.
and you're wondering why didn't as a business owner, my thoughts are why didn't you have a plan to start with? But the we start to ask the questions and they're like, "Well, I thought it was gonna be easy."
Yeah.
Well, no. Building any business is not easy. There's no such thing as easy street. It's definitely a challenge. It's always things you gotta learn to be
Yeah.
able to move forward. You've seen it from there. You have such an amazing journey to be able to bring in that mindset of the side of it. That is a huge, huge benefit to your clients for sure, and those that would be interested to work with you. What would you say is your number one go-to thing when when you're looking at bringing a client on board and they're applying to be part of it, and the good coaches you see out there, they have that application process because I'm not the best coach for everybody, and you're not the best coach for everybody. That's how the the best ones we've seen go through there. But when you're talking to them, what's that thing that you're looking for in the person that really makes them a true fit to your program?
Mhm. The fun thing about this is that the answer to that question would have been different 15 years ago than would have been different 10 years ago, than would have been different 5 years ago, than it's different this year. Isn't that fun, Jason? That's part of
Oh,
what,
yeah.
is awesome about entrepreneurship. When I started my career, I would work with anybody. It didn't matter where they were in their business. It didn't matter what the niche was. It didn't matter what their focus was. But now that I've been doing this for many years and I'm more clear and stable in who I am as a business coach and what I'm capable of helping people do, I'm much more selective and clear about who I want to work with. And so some of the current psychographics of the people that I want to work with, I want to work with people who are committed, dedicated, self-motivated, self-accountable, and that are most importantly for me, just like you said before, well, we should probably have a strategy. If you're going to be a small business owner, we should probably have a strategy in place. I also add in for me personally, I prefer to work with people who understand that business is a brilliantly disguised personal development plan. They understand that we have to do internal work on our brains, on our thoughts, on our emotions in order to get the external results. So I don't anymore work with people who aren't willing to look at their thoughts, emotions, and their actions anymore. I don't work with people who are just looking for someone to come in and say, "Tell me what to do, Rayanne. Tell me exactly what to do." I want people who are willing to go inward to learn about who they are. And that's when I really see successful business owners develop is when they're very clear about who they are. And that requires internal work. And so those are some of the main psychographics of the people that I work with. They're the demographics, I will work with some newer startup companies, but they have to have that special twinkle in their eye that they also have a strong impact goal, a strong mission goal. and they have incredible dedication and certainty about what they want to build. But I tend to work with experienced business owners at this time in my career where they're, in multiple six figures, scaling to seven figures or more. Just because there's a different problem that happens in that small business stage where we're scaling, right? That instead of the solopreneur element, we're moving into team development. We're moving into scalability and leverage. And that's where I've been really creating a lot of impact and having a lot of fun these past few years.
No, that is great to hear that and just like any business, you should be revisiting what you're doing and who you're serving. And if you didn't catch that, business owners, it's okay to say no to certain opportunities that may come at you, because just because you need the money right now does not make that opportunity the right answer. You've got to look inside and figure out what is there. We've definitely had those challenges, my wife and I, as we've sold multiple businesses that we've owned and had to ask ourselves, why are we selling these businesses and where are we going into the future? Rand, it has been such a fantastic conversation to have today. And I want to encourage our listeners to keep going as we jump into our lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The questions aren't hard, but they can be very engaging. So, first ones are easy. How about coffee or tea?
Both.
Both. Okay. Excellent. How about cats or dogs?
Dogs.
If you could grab only one weapon or item during a zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
Never. Oh no. Probably something to hide under. I don't know that I would be the kind of person that would be fighting the zombies. Be trying to be like a bomb shelter type girl.
Okay. There you go. That works. That works. Uh, Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
Oh, um, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Albert Einstein is one of the ones that I lean on quite a bit. My word that I've been really interested in this year is tolerate. I'm watching and witnessing what am I willing to tolerate in my business and helping business owners understand what they are and are not willing to tolerate in their energy, their time, their thoughts, their business, their clientele. So I've been really playing with that word tolerate this year.
Excellent. How about one book that has influenced your life the most?
A book that has influenced my life the most. Um, Power versus Force by David Hawkins.
Okay. And the biggest obstacle you have had to overcome and one lesson you have learned from it?
The biggest obstacle I'd have to overcome is probably my own internal world, which is why I'm a good teacher of it. I've had to use the tools that I teach over and over and over again and continue to use them myself. So, whatever my internal world limiting belief sounds like, I've had a lot of practice of overcoming what's going on in between the ears for myself. And so, I'm a good teacher of it for others.
Yeah, that sounds like anybody. My favorite quote that I created in college was, to know is to have experienced. And the that was one that I've tried to live by, is like, you don't actually know how to do something until you've experienced that thing yourself
Yeah.
and being able to go through it. So, how can our listeners collaborate with you or get to know more about Rayanne?
Yeah. Thank you. Well, if you're interested in the integrated entrepreneur, it's on Amazon. It's at Barnes and Noble. And so if it's something that you want to pick up, that's a nice, easy way for you to begin learning about my work. It's the integrated entrepreneur. So you can go right on Amazon and pick it up. And the integrated entrepreneur is my website. So if you want to learn more about me and the programs, that's a nice way to find me as well.
Okay, and we'll have those links in the show notes or the description if you're watching this on YouTube. And thank you, Rayanne, for being on the podcast today. And for those listeners out there, if you found interest in this podcast and want to know more about the Small Business Breakthrough and the other episodes that we've got, click on this playlist located right here in the corner. And for everybody else out there, until next time.